All right, so Chris Ash, Paul, Craig, Notre Dame is now where he is, set to hire him. He's been at Texas, among some other places first, and at Rutgers, too.
Yeah, he was the head coach at Rutgers. He's got a good record as a defensive coordinator, now taking over for Al Golden, who's with the Bengals. A nice, interesting hire here for Notre Dame as they try to keep it up. But, whenever you have success, people come for your coaches, right? So they've lost their defensive coordinator and they lost their general manager.
Yep,
which is now a big deal in college football, so in college basketball, all across. So now they've got to fill that general manager spot after Chad Bowden left. But I think Chris Ash, really great choice. He's from kind of that Al Golden, the very similar defensive scheme. Really good defensive coordinator for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're familiar with him because he was at Texas once upon a time under Tom Herman a while back now at this point, but seemed to be, from all I could gather, a pretty well-accepted hire. Mike Mickens ends up staying on with Notre Dame as well as a result of just the totality of the moves they've made and this move here. So I feel like that's been portrayed and thought of and talked about as a real win-win for Notre Dame, and that Ash has a lot of similarities to Al Golden. That should make this not so much of a dramatic or topsy-turvy type of transition, no dramatic overhaul, but a guy who's similar and should make this a pretty seamless transition, hopefully if you're Marcus Freeman and company, but a guy who was in the NFL most recently, and you did mention the Rutgers stint. That did not go very well, but Rutgers was not in a great place at that time, and quite frankly, we've seen basically one guy who's gone there and won and been successful. And so, I don't hold that against him in terms of being successful as the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. He's not coming in to be the head coach, but he has had some success as a defensive coordinator. So that you can, I guess, fall back on in terms of, what he has done if you're wanting to point at those types of things. And so, yeah, I think as a DC and with Mickens and obviously what Marcus Freeman's got cooking there, it seems like it's a pretty solid hire, all things considered.
All right. Also, Graham Harrell, he joined us, it's been a couple of weeks ago. In fact, I think about a couple of weeks ago, maybe even today or tomorrow, he was named to the College Football Hall of Fame, the former Texas Tech great, among the greatest yardage, touchdowns, all of that, played under Mike Leach, had a great segment with him, and he was blown away about being in the selected to be a part of the College Football Hall of Fame. And then about 2 to 3, 4 days after that, there was a story by a writer for Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine that he was going to be named the offensive coordinator at Abilene Christian. Kind of got some feedback that was not yet official. Well, now it is. He is going to get the job as offensive coordinator at ACU. Graham Harrell, the Hall of Famer, not far from where he played in Lubbock and Abilene.
Yeah, that should be fun to watch. I think that this would be a good – he's not been able to really get ahead of steam going anywhere, right? He's been – he's been at West Virginia. He's been at USC. He was at Purdue. So he's been all these places for a very short amount of time. If he can just, keep his boots on the ground in Abilene for a couple years, get that offense going how I think he can, and really get in a rhythm. I think that's part of the hard thing about being a young coach, a coach at all, but especially a young coach who's trying to establish what your reputation is, what kind of offense you have. If you're constantly kind of hopping around and you're not anywhere for more than a couple years, you need that place where you are for 2-3 years where you can say oh man, look at this, year over year, 40 points a game, 38 points a game. This is what they're doing. This is their yardage. This is what their quarterbacks are doing. So I think this is a nice move for him.
Yeah, he's a guy who's very much been on a roller coaster these last few years in terms of just moving around. And so I think, at this point, and having talked to him a couple weeks ago and not having a job at that time, you're just happy for the opportunity. I do think it's a symbolic sort of roller coaster that he's been on that's not like the typical, like a guy just starts and he goes up and up and up and up, and then he's the head coach, and then that's like all there is, and then you're a head coach. Like, he's been more up and down, and so much so that, it's got to be kind of whiplash almost to just a few years ago. You're there in Southern California in Los Angeles, and you're running the show for USC, right? And then here you are a few years later, and you're at Abilene Christian. It's just, that's the life of a coach and how it works out. But I know for Graham, he's got his eye on being a head coach one day and getting back to big jobs, but there's a lot of familiarity there with ACU. He's got a lot of family connections. His mother went there. His father played there. His brother played there. So he knows Abilene and he knows ACU very well, and maybe that all ties in a fortuitous way to where that's the job that helps him get back on the path to to maybe bigger jobs in the future. But right now, I'm imagine he's and his family just very happy to be back in a coaching office and getting back to work. So, and also back in the state of Texas. So I guess he'll have to leave that lake house in Tyler and head west, but I'm sure he's happy to do that. So it seems like a great hire for ACU as well. I mean, shoot, I don't think they have to sell that one very hard. So yeah, congratulations to him and best of luck, and hope he has a lot of success.
Think about this. So you are on the trajectory up where you are, right? USC, et cetera. And then all of a sudden, the Purdue thing doesn't go well. The Purdue coach also fired at the end of the year, Walters. And then you're starting to basically wonder where you're going to coach again. And there were even some high school programs, of course, interested. Hey, we have a landing spot for you. And then the opportunity at Abilene Christian to get back, as you said, Craig, into the state of Texas, where all the parents, grandparents, et cetera, are around and not that far away.
He was at USC, and then basically Lincoln Riley gets hired, and they come rolling in, and then just almost like freeze out the previous regime that didn't know what they were in for. And I mean, you probably saw the writing on the wall when Clay Helton gets fired that you're probably not going to have a job, but I don't know that Lincoln Riley also swooped in and handled that the best for the guys that were kind of in uncertainty. So you got dealt that blow and kind of frozen out there. And then don't forget, he was at West Virginia.
Yeah.
He went to West Virginia for a year and then, moved on to Purdue. And that was just a mess because he got scapegoated, and clearly Ryan Walters was not the man for that job. Purdue did not waste any time in saying, yep, that was a mistake, let's move on. But first, they sacrificed Graham Harrell at the beginning of the season to try to, this was the issue. And then it turns out, based on the way Purdue played the rest of the year, like, no, the whole thing was an issue, and that's why they've now moved on to Barry Odom. That's Graham the last few years, USC, West Virginia, Purdue, and now here's Abilene Christian. So good luck to him, and hope, again, like I said, that they win a lot of games.